Maybe we've been laughing at your angry customers because you have to have some sense of humor if you're going to work with the public. Or maybe I'm not really your therapist and you're just here to get my take on these Reddit stories about strangers. Gas thief revenge. I was told this belonged here, so I'm reposting. I had a neighbor who would walk into my backyard, take my gas can of gas from my mower, and put it in his car and mower, and then return the can. I found this out after I began to get a little suspicious that this 5-gallon can was always nearly empty every time I went to mow the lawn. And it was only like a 1-quart tank on the lawnmower. This was back before cheap, easy security cameras. So I had set up a webcam from my laptop with motion detection software. I caught the guy going into my backyard literally 5 minutes after I left the house. For the next week, every time I had to take a piss, I pissed in that gas can. Now full of but still smells enough like gas to fool an idiot. Then I left it on the back patio again. I made a big show of checking the fluids in my car and packing a few bags. I made sure the neighbor knew I was getting ready to go on a trip and that I'd be gone for a while, hoping he takes the bait. I come back home in about an hour. Car trouble. The thief is in his front yard pulling the rope on his lawnmower so hard it looks like he's going to have a stroke. He's turning bright red and cursing. Later, he gets in his car, makes it a couple blocks up the road, and it suddenly breaks down. I check the gas can on my patio. Empty. Also, I just wanted to add, this guy was a huge piece of crap, so that's not the only thing he did. I found out he had arrest warrants, so I ended up getting him arrested by applying for a sheriff's ride-along program in his name. Wow, would all of this really work? I know so little about cars. If you know whether or not that would work, please let me know. Obviously, I know you're not supposed to put other liquids in your gas tank. I'm guessing would be pretty bad, but would it really only take a couple of blocks for the car to break down? I'm also kind of surprised that OP had enough information to sign his neighbor up for the ride-along program, but let's just suspend disbelief. That is so funny. It's technically kind of passive-aggressive, but I would be a fan of doing that. I don't know, the thought of someone angrily into a gas can is sending me a little bit. This reminds me of one of my dad's stories from his younger Royal Air Force days. He was at a disco, using his terminology here, and noticed a guy mine-sweeping pints. So he goes to the loo with a half-drunk pint, fills it the rest of the way up with sets it down, and wanders off to watch from across the room. Sure enough, the minesweeper picks up the pint and takes a massive gulp of piss. Is this worth doing? You've got to be driven by such pettiness to act on this. Had a place that we did a lot of four-wheeling and had to take extra gas with. The extra fuel would be left at camp and we could refuel when needed. The cans keep getting stolen. One day we were at an auction and they had like 30 to 50 5-gallon cans. Instead of selling them in smaller lots, they dumped it as one larger lot of all the cans. So a few of us pitched in and bought them all. Next weekend, we filled them with 1 cup of gas and the rest just water. Found multiple trucks and quads broken down, motors wouldn't start, etc., but they had a full tank. We did this all summer long. A large group of us was spread out in a large area, and we would leave the cans at different campsites each time. Shockingly enough, by the end of the summer, people stopped stealing gas in the park. It was so bad that even the locals would drive up and steal them. I kind of feel like it's not stealing them if you're just leaving them. Like, why is this random woodland area your personal storage? The locals and other people in the area were probably like, oh, it's so cool how gas keeps showing up here. I probably wouldn't use it. In fact, after reading all these stories, I'm never using any gas that I didn't get myself right at the pump. But I could imagine people thinking you were leaving it there to share. So I think this is an extra petty and passive-aggressive story. If it were me, I would have tried like labeling the canisters or something before trying to over a bunch of random people. Make this a fucking movie already. OP said, if I sat down and thought about all the shit this neighbor pulled in maybe the year and a half he lived there, I'd be typing all day. These places were duplexes. The people who shared the other side of the building he was in moved out. It ended up being unoccupied for a couple of months because these people had a couple of dogs who kind of trashed the place, so it wasn't going to be ready to be rented for a bit. This thieving dirtbag stopped paying his power bill and it got shut off. But no worries, he just ran an extension cord to the outlet of the patio of the vacant unit. Next level leech, this guy. The way we ended up finding out is the guy that owned the duplex said he would give me $20 if I mowed the front and backyard of that vacant unit. I had worked at an auto parts place with this guy years ago. We knew each other pretty well. So I go over there on my riding mower and I see an extension cord over the fence plugged into the back patio. So I called the owner and I said, "Hey man, do you know that Frank has an extension cord over the fence plugged into your unit next door?" We had had many conversations about Frank at this point. His wife's disability was still paying the rent, and he didn't technically have any cause to kick him out because we couldn't prove anything. We had heard rumors about the thefts, but nothing we could really prove. This was maybe 4 months before the whole gas can incident, by the way. So my friend waits until dark and creeps up there at night with his headlights off. As he's walking around the back of the patio, he sees an arm over the fence pulling the cord over, and he yells out, "Hey, too late, Frank, I already saw it." My friend's friend, who owns the place, is way more of a soft touch than I am. When he went to their door and talked to them, they gave him a sob story about how they're trying to get energy assistance and get the power turned back on, blah, blah, blah. So he let it slide. Looking back, I'm pretty sure he was just trying to keep that $1,500 a month coming into his pocket. Because hey, he didn't have to live across the street from them. So yeah, little things like this all the time with this freaking guy. And the frustrating part is he always seems to just get away with it. You know what's crazy about this is it's so much more effective. You're actually so much better protected if you build community with your neighbors, do kind things for each other, help each other out the best you can. You can build a community that will protect you so much better from financial insecurity rather than stealing from your neighbors and screwing them over and basically getting yourself ostracized from that community. But some people are gonna just keep doing it the way they saw it done without even having a second thought of like, is this the most effective way for me to get these needs met? They're not even gonna process that. They're probably just on autopilot. A parent wants to meet with me over a comment I made about energy drinks. I teach 6th grade science and I'm about to finish my 4th year. Yesterday, I had a student ask if she could drink her energy drink in my class. It was a giant Monster Energy that had a screw-on cap. I've never seen one like that before. I said no, only water in class. Kid hits me with a, "It's mostly water," and I jokingly said, "It's straight poison, water only in class." I let the girl put it at my desk until the end of the day so she didn't have to go all the way back to her locker, especially because she tends to wander. I didn't know this at the time, but she emailed her dad about my comment right after. He's pissed, and he emailed my principal and assistant principal demanding a meeting with me next week. I talked to my principal about it and told her I wasn't trying to shame the kid. I was just jokingly trying to end the conversation because it was clear she wanted to argue with me. That's the thing about working with teenagers. Like, you have to be able to shut things down in a joking way, or a lot of times it's just gonna keep escalating. So I feel like in general, this OP had a good instinct about that. My principal was very understanding and just told me to be more mindful of how things I say can be perceived. Give me a break. But that she will support me and meet with the parent herself first. If the parent still wants to meet with me after, she said she'll be present for that as well. I had a series of cardiac issues last year that were caused by the amount of energy drinks I was consuming. I ended up going to the ER during the middle of the school day because of it. I'm feeling very stupid about my comment and I just want this year to be over. It's been my worst year yet. Dude, this whole situation should have been able to be put to rest with like a one-line email that was like, "It was a joke. I've also consumed energy drinks. We're only allowed water in class." This feels like a kid who bonds with her parent by turning them against other people. Like, she knew immediately dad was gonna get pissed on her behalf, and that's probably how they connect, which is really unfortunate. It promotes a lot of hostility wherever you go. Also, obviously poison might be a slight exaggeration, but teachers should absolutely be able to tell kids that energy drinks are not good for you because it's kind of just an obvious fact. And the teacher didn't go up to her and say it out of nowhere. They were having a conversation about the energy drink. This is dumb. Parents are ridiculous being upset about something like this. Seriously, don't you have like bigger fish to fry? This is why teachers quit. When it's like this, but repeatedly throughout the day for the entire year. To be real here, energy drinks I am not fond of. Never drink it, generally water. But OP took a personal position here and told a child that her drinks are toxic. Oh my god, I cannot. I swear to god, reading comments on Reddit is shaving time off my life. That is an emotionally loaded statement, communicating a personal opinion as a fact to a child. A child who might like that drink. You do not have to agree, but you also shouldn't tell a child that her favorite drink is toxic. Oh no, you're so right. If a multi-billion-dollar corporation has poured endless resources into marketing and creating an emotional attachment specifically with teenagers, you should never challenge that because it might upset them. So even if she shouldn't drink that, a teacher should be more emotionally intelligent and eloquent to explain a personal position. You do not have to be condescending and imposing. You can also just explain and reason. Pretty easy to explain why the Monster Energy drink she is consuming is unhealthy and potentially dangerous in that volume. Just do that. Communicate with children. Do not command them without explaining your position. School is not military. It was a joke that was based in fact that this stuff is not good for you. This commenter is really suggesting that instead OP should have given the student a little lecture about exactly why they shouldn't be drinking Monster. Edit. I take the downvotes as a sad statement of hopefully not teachers who interact with children, but rather just random Redditors who are highly emotional and not eloquent enough to form a reaction. This person 100% thinks their comment is so eloquent. OP responded, "It was a joke I made. It wasn't emotionally loaded. My students know they can't have anything but water in my classroom because I have a lab space. I told them day one and explained why. They know." Her dad sent her back with another Monster today, and guess where it ended up? On my desk until the end of class. Some students know the expectations and just like to push boundaries. It's also on my class syllabus that all of the parents and guardians had to sign at the beginning of the year. Catering to parents' every little complaint is why teachers can't just teach. Yes, this kind of thing is not worth any kind of meeting. Schools should feel capable of saying no. Yes, reading comments about how ace the principal is for meeting with the parent first. How about not at all? How about if you don't agree with the teacher's comments, tell the child your own batch theory and move on? How ridiculous. Yeah, I feel like this commenter is spot on. Like, we also need to teach our kids that not everyone has to agree with them and that they can tolerate some differences of opinions. Like, if you think that there's actual harm going on, that's a different story, but I'd be hard-pressed to see that in this case. It sounds a lot more like anger/hostility problems and a power trip. Update. Long story short, a student brought a Monster Energy drink to my class knowing they weren't allowed. When I told her she couldn't have it, she tried to argue with me about it and I jokingly called it poison. Her dad emailed my principal about having a meeting with me about it. This morning, what did this kid come in with? A Monster Energy drink. I told her she couldn't have it in class, and her options were to throw it away or put it on my desk until the end of class. She opted to put it on my desk, but told me that her dad said I wasn't allowed to touch her personal property. I have a water only in class rule, partially because I don't want to deal with spills, but mainly because my classroom has a lab space. Students know this. I made it clear in the first week of school, and it's also on my class syllabus. I looked back through my parents' contact log, and I've contacted her dad a total of 11 times throughout the year about his daughter failing my class. The last time I emailed was about a month ago. I kinda hope we do have a meeting so I can hit him with, "I know you want to talk about my energy drink comment, but before we do that, I'd love to talk to you about your daughter's grades in my class. I've tried to contact you 11 times throughout the year and have never gotten a response. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week." Well, doesn't that just say it all? It actually kind of tugs on my heartstrings because there are clearly some things going on in this family. They clearly could use some kind of support. From what I've seen, you wouldn't have that pattern where you're ignoring or avoiding the contact about your child failing, but you're jumping into action over this really silly matter unless there was something bigger going on at home. And with whatever that is going on at home, no wonder this kid is struggling to engage in class and picking this random little power battle about the monsters. And what really sucks is between like the dad's hostility and whatever his issues are in the kid maybe like acting up, a lot of teachers are bound to get like a negative feeling or a bias against the student. It really kind of reminds me of how I was in school, and so many teachers did not not like me. Looking back, kind of understandably so for a lot of them, but it makes it really hard for the kid to get the support they need. You want special treatment? I would love to oblige. Buckle up, this is a long one. Once upon the before time in 2015, I worked my way through nursing school as a waitress in a restaurant. The restaurant did not advertise. They prided themselves on word-of-mouth marketing for their popularity. This is important. I had been there for several months at this point and had proved myself reliable and knowledgeable enough to help train new waiters. I wasn't technically a trainer, but I could be relied upon to support new workers once the trainers set them loose. We had one older guy who had just been released. He was a little awkward, a little shy, and worried about making mistakes, which was absolutely expected. And he was great to work with. On the night of our tale, he was in the section next to mine, easy to keep an eye on and easy to hop in and prop him up when he hit the weeds. This was his first night with his own complete section. Weeds would abound. I was ready. What he wasn't ready for was his first demanding round of about 6 people, 20-somethings with attitude. He came to me worried and confused. They want XYZ, but I don't think that's on our menu, right? She says we have the ingredients and just make it. That the other location makes it all the time. Yes, I could have taught him to stand his ground, but nerves and first night with your own section isn't the time for this. So I told him to ask the back line and see if they were willing, and if not, I would talk to the table. The cooks were fine with it, basically a wrap if I remember correctly. So no problem, from our end. This was apparently the cue for the leader of the table to demand something every time he came to the table. As soon as he brought the last requested item, she needed something else. I thought it was possible and had been keeping an eye on him. Seeing his panicked face, I gave him a nod and started checking in on his other tables, slotting them into my own table cycles. Reasons I'm paired with him. This carried on for their entire meal, incredibly needy and demanding his full attention with zero apology or kindness. I made sure to catch him in the back to prepare for possibly getting no tip, but to calm the panic and to remind him I would not be touching the tips from his other tables. This is so awful. I hate it when people treat service workers like they're not human. Honestly, this poor guy looked like he was about to quit on the spot. This leader was rude and impatient and gave him no space to breathe. I was his emotional support animal at this point, but knowing he was at least twice my age made it even worse for him. The table had come in close to the end of the night and ended up staying past our section's closing, so they were the last table on our side of the restaurant. Perks of closing with a new waiter getting out early. That's when he came to me asking how to do an employee discount, and they wanted to use more than one on a single ticket. Was that okay? What? Are you telling me 2 of these people are gonna work at this chain? That is unbelievable. So you work the job, you know exactly how much of an asshole you're being. That's when he shared that she had spent the entire meal berating and making fun of him because 1, she was a trainer at our other location, and 2, he was the worst waiter she had ever seen. No wonder the other location made her special meals. And zero surprise, he was such a wreck. On top of that, she was claiming that there were multiple birthdays in the group, so free cakes all around. And she wanted the birthday song immediately. To say I was livid is like saying lava is warm. I was ready to throw hands for this poor man. Instead, I told him to prep the cakes, but don't go out yet. I would get the boss about employee discount, not needed, we could do it ourselves, but this was such a special case. And I would gather the workers for the birthday song. The managers there were absolutely amazing. We loved each other and all of them had our backs, which is very rare in restaurants, so this is almost the best part. I gave the front end boss a quick rundown of the table's antics. Remember the word of mouth restaurant mentality? Yeah, the boss was not having a restaurant employee acting so cruelly, even if she wasn't his employee. I asked permission for what I wanted to do. He smiled and gave permission as he grabbed the employee numbers given for the discounts, which that trainer surely knew could not be stacked, and told me he had a boss-to-boss phone call to make. I then ran to every employee I could grab. Remember, half the restaurant was closing down, so we had several people available, including a dishwasher, and gave them each the fastest explanation of the table and the plan. And then I told the poor, nerve-wracked server that we were ready to drop cakes. The crowd that arrived to that 6-person tabletop was honestly the largest we had ever had for a birthday song, and I am pretty confident the largest that the restaurant will ever have. We served free cakes in front of every seat, and the leader had the most self-satisfied smirk as we all grinned ecstatically and lined up to sing. And oh, did we sing. We all sang that birthday song as loud as possible. Please do recall that they were the last table in the section, and for your imaginings, I should mention that this table was in the corner as well. So while we were screaming the birthday song, it was bouncing back from that corner as well, and it was an excruciatingly long song. Their smiles all dropped immediately, and hands covered their ears as they jumped with the audio onslaught. I know it hurt my ears, and that pain is something that still makes me smile to this day. We all stood there, giant group, happily screaming our restaurant's special happy birthday song, and it still warms my heart a decade later. More than that, while we were gathering and planning and destroying eardrums, our boss was making phone calls in the office. Yes, he called her restaurant manager and informed them of her behavior. And no, she didn't get the stacked employee discounts. She didn't get her discount at all. I know because I was there when she was handed the phone from my front-end manager at the host desk, and when she started to cry and tried to make her excuses for why she shouldn't be fired. But the general manager, one step below owner since this was a small company with very few locations, had already been called, her employee number had been shared, and she was done. I'm not psychic. She could have gone back to her home location and convinced someone to hire her back. Anything is possible. But I know how she treated this poor guy. I know how I told the tale to my boss, and I know the quiet rage he so rarely touched when it was rage. I would have almost given up joining in that screaming song to be able to hear those phone calls. Almost. I really hope this one is true because that's exactly how you should handle something like this. This is how you protect your company's work culture. There is a special place in hell for front of house workers who act terribly when out to eat. Seriously, it seems particularly disturbing because not only is there a lack of empathy, it almost seems like a sadistic urge because you have to know how stressful that situation is. Your impatience doesn't matter. I'm in line at the self-checkout in the grocery store. When it's my turn, I will walk up to one of the 4 machines, beat my food, pay, and leave. No big deal, we all do it. However, there is only one person in front of me, and she is pissed. She is standing with her arms and legs crossed, scowling and staring at everyone that is in the middle of checking out, tapping her finger, going so far out of her way to display impatience through her body language. I am thoroughly entertained by this bee. I am definitely the type to speak up for myself, but not one to make a scene at someone else's expense. But damn, I was close. Calling out this bullshit wouldn't have been productive in any way, shape, or form, but it would have been funny as hell. Ma'am, do you think that you matter so much that your finger tapping makes a difference? Hey everybody, this woman is clearly inconvenienced by your checking out in front of her. Could we please stop that immediately? Ooh, look how impatient you are. You are clearly in a hurry and can't help but show how miserable you are about it. Hey everyone! Hey everyone! Did we all see this woman's toe tapping? I think she's pissed or something. Insert funny shenanigans below. Thanks. That's so funny. That's kind of like what I meant earlier about having a sense of humor about it when people are acting irrationally. If it's something like this, rather than letting it stress you out, see if you can just kind of make it into a joke in your head. I know that doesn't sound very empathetic, but it's also a way to protect yourself from getting worked up about things that you don't need to. I used to say something similar to my dad about his road rage. Dad, do you think that all your yelling and swearing is going to somehow change this person's driving? They probably don't even know you exist. All you're doing is raising your blood pressure and wrecking your own day. My husband started saying, "They can't hear you, babe." That's so true though. We really can raise our stress and cortisol levels for no good reason. And generally, you're gonna get somewhere a lot faster if you try to focus on changing your reactions to the world around you rather than trying to control everybody else. Am I the a-hole for asking other gym members to stop talking during a workout class? Hi Reddit. I, 34 female, was at an 8:15 Orange Theory class. It should be noted that our head instructor left the studio last week, and most of the coaches are new. There is a friend group of about 4 women older than myself and their husbands that come to this gym. They have asked me to move treadmills in the past so that they can be next to each other, and I've been polite and moved, even though I like to get a certain number station for the weights, because the odd stations have the 15-pound free weight. Here's the problem. Today we had a new instructor, and these women and 2 of their partners were next to me. The group was loud, screaming loud to the point that I couldn't hear the instructor introduce what the class was, or the interval instructions. The instructor was using a microphone and I still couldn't hear. I nicely asked them if they could please be quiet because I couldn't hear the instructions. Oh my gosh, this seems so disrespectful. Not only to the other people in the class, but to the instructor. I've never taken an Orange Theory class. My perspective is more Pilates, bar, yoga, dance, jiu-jitsu, and none of those would it be appropriate to talk while the teacher's talking. They gave me a look and stopped for about 30 seconds. Then they proceeded to continue screaming to each other for the next 20 minutes. The instructor is fresh and I didn't want to involve her in conflict our first time meeting. So I went to the front desk and explained the situation to him. He fully understood and agreed, and he's going to tell the new lead coach. I think the group knew I said something because they quieted down, were glaring at me, and went to the water fountain as a group to talk shortly after I went to the desk. My question, am I the a-hole? Should I have addressed them directly a second time? Should I have talked to the instructor? Should I have just let it go since it's a gym and there's no strict rule against talking during a workout? I go about 4 times a week, usually in a different time slot than this group, and have never had any issues. It seems to be an unspoken rule that we are there to focus. I'm genuinely wondering what people think here, and thanks in advance for any feedback. Oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to this, but this would have majorly been pissing me off too. I'm a confrontational person, so the second time, I would have matched their volume and said, "Hey, I can't hear the instructor because of how loud you're all being." I would then collect all of their dirty looks as small awards for my victory. If they later mad dogged me, I'd walk up and say, "Didn't your mama ever teach you that being loud in public and staring is rude?" That's just me though. Oh, what must it be like to have such freedom engaging in conflict with strangers? Not the a-hole. I was originally trained by a very corporate yoga chain in 2016. I have had many other / different movement and fitness trainings since then, and I've been teaching on and off for about a decade. When I say that etiquette has gone out the window for class, I mean it. People talk while the instructor is teaching. People don't stop talking when the instructor is trying to start class. It's wild to me. At the corporate studio where I was trained, we were instructed to lock the doors right at the top of the hour or when class started. It was also a big no-no to talk in class at all once the teacher came in. I have no idea where fitness etiquette has gone. Nope, you handled that perfectly. They were being rude, you addressed it directly, they blew you off, and you escalated it to the proper channels. I don't see any room for improvement on your end, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm a former gym owner and aerobic instructor. They were rude to everyone in that class, but also the instructor. It's not easy getting in front of a new class, and every instructor has a different routine to learn. You have to be able to hear them. In the 42 years I've spent in some form of a gymnasium, only children behave like they do. Well, you know what? Maybe you heard it here first, folks. It is rude to talk during a workout class. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next one.